Good morning, media. We see you all filing in here. Today, we are excited to bring you Bruce Cassidy, Charlie McAvoy, and Anders Bjork. If you have a question for one of them, please use that raise hand function on the bottom of your screen, and we will get you in. Hi, Coach. Live here with media. We will take our first question from Steve Conroy.
Bruce, just a couple of bookkeeping things. Will Corral be available tomorrow? And do you have a timetable yet with Miller on? First press today.
No timetable on Miller. Good to see him out with the main group. And then Corrali has now been cleared. He just hasn't skated a lot, Steve. So we have to manage that. So we'll discuss it internally. Should he go in tomorrow, or is he better off skating tomorrow, getting a good practice Friday, go in Saturday, that type of thing. So those are things that we'll have to look at. But in terms of the COVID protocol list, I believe he's officially available tomorrow.
In last night, you moved Pasta around a little bit to get him going, I guess. Is there anything specific that you see that he can do to break out of this mini slump here, or does he just have to find his way?
Well, I mean, he has to find his way. I mean, he plays 20 minutes a night. I mean, I can move him around with everybody, but part of it is I don't think he's in the interior nearly as much as he needs to be. A lot of kind of poke and go stuff, a lot of outside, looking for the, the one-on-one moves, or, he certainly has them, but defenders know that he's going to try that. So they're more aware. So he just has to get a little dirtier with his line mates. They've had some tough luck. I mean, they both run one out. I think Bergie hit a bar early yesterday post. I think Pasta hit one on the power play. So they've been had a little tough luck around the net with their shots, but I think they got to get back to scoring some greasy goals. They typically will do that, eventually find their way. I moved them around, but I mean, I like Krejci and Ritchie and Smith. They've strung together some decent outings here. So I'd like to we've been searching for that for a while. So, we don't want to disrupt that, but that was the thinking, halfway through the game. We'd had a few penalties, so some guys were getting moved around. So sometimes that sparks Kretsch and Pasta, and I think Bergie and Marsh are always going to, be a good pair. So putting Smitty up there gives them a shooter. But I'd like to keep it the way it is right now, simply because, like I said, I like the way Krejci's line is starting to produce.
Thanks.
Kevin Paul DuPont. Go ahead, Kevin. right, we will go to Fluto Shinzawa.
Bruce, you've noted how Grzelcyk and McAvoy have advocated for themselves as a pairing. So with that in mind, now that it probably serves the team better for them to be apart, do you have to explain that to them, or do they get it?
Oh, they get it. It's been discussed before that they will be together at times, probably situational. When we're completely healthy, we'll use them in offensive blue line situations, maybe at the end of the period, when we're down later in the game. So they'll certainly probably always see some time together. But as for permanent partners, when Carlo's in and Miller's in and Lowe's at the start of the year, we like the way they were set up, each pair. Doesn't mean we won't, mix it around, but I just thought that gives us the best chance to be solid on the back every shift, and then not have to chase matchups all night. Certainly prefer matchups with certain pairs, but not chase them, and that really comes in handy on the road. Where you're not, moving guys around. It takes away from your attack when you do get a clean breakout if D are coming off the ice or they're changing through the neutral zone and they can't keep a puck alive to help on the forecheck, different things like that. So that's why we want to guard against, like I said, having to manage every pair's matchup. So at the end of the day, that's what I feel gives us the best chance to win. And they will be together at times, as I said, when necessary. And then we were hoping to see the growth in some of the other guys' games, i.e. Lozon and Zaboro, and then go from there and try something. It might have been then maybe Lozon could go with Carlo if they were both cleaner with the puck. But Grizz certainly is ahead, and that has just a little more ability there. So it does give Brandon a guy that can make some plays out of traffic. So that was the game plan after about 6, 7, 8 games. Let's see how they develop. But right now with the injuries, it kind of blew all that up, and now we're almost back to where we started. If Kevin comes in, it's getting closer. Then we have to revisit it before the end of the year, moving the lefty around. But right now, that's how we're going to play it out.
Go Haggerty.
Hey, Butchie. Just wondering your sort of thought process when you're walking through, as you sort of referenced last night, deciding between, you want to give some of the younger guys some rope and give them an opportunity to, carve something out, but also having, established guys right now that are sitting, and sort of your thought process when you're going back and forth as far as how much you want to give the young guys versus putting the veteran guys back in.
Well, we knew this was going to be a year of, I don't know if transition is the right word, Hags, because then people read in too much to that word. It's just we were going to incorporate some younger bodies that had paid their dues in Providence, we felt. And we identified those guys as Lozon, Zaboro, Frederick, and give us a little more sandpaper. Freddie and Lozon, give us that. Jack we weren't sure. He'd played a year. There might be some opportunity for him. So that was one that kind of developed, I think, after the Cash injury more than anything. Because we have been relatively healthy down the middle. And then from there, if other opportunities presented themselves from guys down there, and we weren't happy here, we'd do that. And there's been a bit of that. Some of it is competition from the bottom up, guys pushing from the bottom to make guys better around them. We've certainly had success here for, I think, 4 or 5 years with that philosophy. You just got to make sure the guys that are pushing are able to play. So that was the thinking, and we want to stick with it as much as possible. We don't want to lose our identity or our standing or our expectation while we do that. So we've got to be mindful of that. So we're keeping a close eye on it. I still think we're a solid hockey team. I think when we get healthy, we're as good as anybody in our division. Obviously, the last month of March, we took some hits, COVID, injuries, but that's also allowed for Danny Vladar viewing, right? And he's played well. So sometimes there's positives in those things. You lose your number one goalie, another guy comes in. Now you maybe have a little better idea what you have in Dan Vladar. So that's a positive. But we want to get Tuukka back out there. We want to get Kevin Miller out there, Carlo, all those guys. Jake back off the protocol, Corrali in there, and look at our team as constructed at the start of the year. So when I put Cash in that mix too, he's back skating. So that's the thought process. And I'd like to stick with Freddie. He's done some good things for this team. Cooley, we know, is a guy that can go in and give you some motor. And Senny's, I guess, the last guy we're trying to give an extended looks. He had a great start in Providence. he's been I guess his fourth year pro, so he should have a good expectation of what to see up at the National Hockey League level. So that's our thinking a little bit, and it's hurt some guys in the lineup. A Wagner, for example, maybe a McKaig that's played a few more games in the league, but that's what we're going to try to do. Give them their opportunity. Then it comes up to them to seize it. And as I said last night, Hags, not to run on here, but I was a little disappointed that they did not bring a little more juice to get us going a little bit. Marshy did it, and Marshy will always do it, but that's something that we have to relay the message. Hey guys, and we did after the second period. This is your job. So this is an opportunity for you to earn the trust of your teammates and the organization to go out there and annoy somebody, to get people, excited to get on the ice, get the crowd into it, different things that get teams motivated. I mean, it's a long year. You need some of that. Freddie's done a good job with it all year. And we asked, I guess, a few other guys to be involved a little more in that. Even Losey did it a couple times. Now he's coming off an injury, so it's a little tougher, but that's the ask for some of those younger guys. And hopefully we get it here going forward.
Dan Roach.
Hey, Bruce, just kind of follow up what Hags was saying. What have you seen over your career that are some of the difference makers because you've seen I'm sure so many great talented players, on that, to use a better term, AAA level, but have a hard time breaking in and being consistent on the NHL level. What are some of the difference makers? Is it confidence, bouncing back from mistakes, bad games? What are some of the things you see that these young guys need to do to stay on that level?
I think it's a willingness to do what's asked when you're put in the lineup, a willingness to compete at your highest level possible, because that's usually the start. If you're not a competitive player and you've spent time in the minors, there's a reason you don't make the team originally. You're lacking something, unless there's the odd exception when a team is just loaded. But in general, you're missing either foot speed, acumen, the strength on the puck. So I think the difference, the guys that come up have the will and the want to do whatever it takes and not be sent back down. And sometimes it'll take a couple recalls to get that in you, where you've decided, you know what, I've ridden the buses now for a year and a half. I know I can do it up there. The last time I was up there, I was close. I just didn't have, as you said, confidence is another thing to make that last play, or, I just didn't want to go the extra mile and be physical when that was the ask, or, and some guys, it's just physical maturity. For the bigger guys, sometimes it takes a while. Like a Jack Stadnicka, right? He's light. For him, when his body catches up, probably the rest of his game, there's a guy that should have an easier time, because I think he has the good hockey IQ, the ability to make plays, the willingness. So that factors into it at times too. Your body development. Charlie McAvoy had that from day one. Was able to come up here. Was just a man as a 20-year-old, and could handle that part of the game. So. Some of it is that as well. But most of all, I think it's just the compete in you to get it done on the ice and want to stay. And we're seeing that with Freddie this year. I think he's been much harder to play against this year than last year, much better idea of how to play the game. And that's the part that falls on us as coaches, trying to get them to understand what is required to play at this level. And I don't want to use the word sell, but get them to buy into that part of it. And I think what happens, Dan, most times is the guys that after their second or third time through, they see it with their own eyes. And if they don't by then that's a red flag for us as a coaches, as organization, that, maybe this guy just doesn't have that will to beat a guy out of his job and get it done.
Last question, Kevin Paul Dupont.
Am I good this time?
We got
you. Kevin, you're loud and clear.
A couple of quick ones first. I have to think by now DeBrusk is climbing the walls. Is he getting dispirited by this?
He was in this morning. He was smiling, so he's happy to be to back with the guys. He has limited, obviously, by the NHL's protocol what he can and can't do, but he's getting closer. I think he was 3 or 4 days behind Corrali, so. I don't know if that means he'll be out with the group tomorrow, Friday, or what, but he's closer. So
Okay.
That's good.
And Vladar tomorrow?
Vladar will start tomorrow.
Okay. And lastly, I think I'm on the same page with you here when you're talking about the kids and the roles they can fill. Last night, first period, second period, there were these lulls where I said, somebody's got to come out here and just do a crash and bang shift. Just get out there and, nail guys, bang along the boards. Do you feel that way, or is that cutting it too fine?
No, I think you're certainly on there. Yes, there's something to be said for just going out there and, clean, but, finish 2-3 checks in a row if the situation dictates. And I think people will notice, the other team will notice, we'll notice, there'll be some chatter on the bench. Hopefully the crowd, respects it. And all of a sudden now the energy level's gone up in the whole building. And then you hope it feeds on the next shift, because that's what will happen. Guys on the bench will be like, hey, look at Bleeder, the fellas, let's follow that up with it. And all of a sudden Charlie Coyle goes over the boards, and then it's, it just works that way in hockey. I mean, even with the older guys, I don't know if you remember the game, we were struggling. We went into New York on a Sunday. In the first shift of the game, Bergie goes in and drills a good clean hit on Lindgren. Well, the whole bench notices, right? Like, now we're into it, and it just snowballs and bleeds into the next shift, and off you go. And it doesn't mean you have to throw 100 hits that night, but you need a couple of shifts where that happens, right? And then now all of a sudden you're getting the puck back. The other team might be a little more nervous. They know you're coming. They have less time to make a play, and all of a sudden you're playing with the puck in their end, and you found your game again and tilted the ice. So yes, that's what needs to happen. And of course, there are veteran guys on the team that can go out and do that and make a living doing that. But for us, I think we have some of these young guys in that role that need to understand that role, that's something they can bring. And when they do that, listen, the coaching staff, everybody notices that, hey, you know what, this guy's willing to do that. That's going to be a check mark on his side of the ledger to put him in the lineup, because those nights happen. You don't want them happening every night, but they happen through the course of a long season. They happen through condensed schedules. And I think teams that have those high motor guys can certainly feed off of it. And so I think you're right in how you assess that. And that's, what we were talking about post game about, building that into the younger guys' minds, that's how they can affect the game. Other guys are going to affect it on the power play or maybe a skill play. These guys can affect it with energy level.
So for instance, if I'm the fourth line left winger, can I do that myself, or have I got to get the other two guys to buy in with me?
I think you got to get the other two guys to say either, hey, throw it in the right. If you're a left winger, throw it in the right D's corner. I'm gonna go get a hit here, and then you follow me in and just make sure we have a good high four and you get it. You know what I mean? Like, yes, they should be discussing it, and they can feed off one another, and that's where chemistry helps. And I think, Kevin, if you look at the Merlot line, if you look at the Achari, Schaller, Corrali type of thing, they were together for a while, so that was it, right? They knew they didn't need me or Joe Sacco to come down and say, "Hey guys, it was more like, guys, like it's our turn, let's go. We want to play a little more tonight, let's go do it." And put Nordy in that group, but there's a little bit of turnover in that role, right? So that's where this year I think we're a little bit, maybe the skill set wasn't there for that type of shift or whatnot with guys in and out, but. Last night a line like Frederick, Bleed, and Cooley, I think it's there. I mean, Bleed will hit, Freddie can hit. Cooley's not as physical, but he's got foot speed to get in and disrupt the play. So that's where that line I think could have affected the game. I think that's what we were talking about. Even a Senyshyn on the third line. Listen, he's not going to go in, but he is 200 pounds. He's got great speed. Bjorky's built a bit of that into his game. He's got great speed. Charlie's a big guy, so some of those guys can have a shift like that. Especially if you roll them out a couple times in a row, right? Both those lines say, for example, all of a sudden now Bergie's excited, Pasta, wow, they're awake on the bench, and Kretsch, and now your skill comes out when like I said, the other team is noticing it, so they're less apt to hold on to the puck longer. Now all of a sudden your skill guys are out, they're getting the puck more, and the game shifts a little bit. So that is exactly, I guess, how you're, if I'm describing it, how you're thinking it, I think is right.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep.
Media, next up, we will have Anders Bjork. If you have a question, please use that raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. As a reminder, if you no longer have a question, to lower your hand. Hey, Bjorky, live here with the media. We will take the first question from Steve Conroy.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good, thanks. The last few weeks, you seem to be more involved, more around the puck. How much has your work on the PK fed into that? And do you think you're kind of on the cusp of some production here?
Yeah, I'm really trying to take pride in my penalty kill this year. It's something that I've been focusing on a lot and working with the coaches on. It gets me on the ice more, gets me more in the game, a couple extra minutes, and it is huge for our team. It's an important part of the game. So something that, as I said, I'm trying to take a lot of pride in. And I think that's been contributing these last couple of games here because I've been playing with some more confidence and been getting around the net more, making a few more plays, and just trying to keep focusing on that and trying to get more pucks to the net and get to the net myself more. I think that's how you start breaking over that cusp and scoring goals.
Thank you.
Dan Roach.
Hey, Anders, how you doing?
Doing well.
Good. Just a question. Butchie was just talking about, the ability for young guys and what they need to do to stay at this level, stay in the NHL. What has that journey been like for you? And you watch yourself play. You seem to be extremely aggressive, going hard after the puck, using your body and everything else. What are some of the things that you've learned over the last several years to try to make an impression on the coaching staff, your teammates, and have the ability to stay and thrive in the NHL rather?
Great question. I think, the biggest thing is, you probably hear this a lot, is competing. I think that's what the best guys do. And, even the guys like Marshy and Bergie and Pasta and all those guys who have such elite skill, they're successful because they compete. And you look at Marshy, a guy who, rose up pretty quickly, but rose up from bottom six guy to a top six guy quickly. It was all because of his compete, and then his skill was a lot of take over. And, all those guys do a good job preaching that to us. And that's something that, we got to build more into our game, is that compete night after night, because it's a tough season with, a lot of games and stuff like that. So you have to build that compete level as a habit of yours, and find it every night. And you can do that in a variety of ways, but for me, it's skating and moving my feet and being aggressive, being on pucks quickly. And for other guys, it's a little different, but it's that same concept of competing and making that a habit of yours.
Well, you also had high success at Notre Dame, so you're coming off that. Where did it click that was what it needed to take, as opposed to in Notre Dame, you were a great player and, you had the ability to outskill other players simply, by just what you were given for talent. When did it click, or has it clicked for you, is to say, I need to do something maybe a little bit different, a higher level on this level to stay?
Yeah, I mean, that's an adaptation. I think, obviously these are the best players in the world that we're playing against every night. And, you're not going to be able to outskill the majority of guys. That happens from time to time, but, you got to find ways. That's what makes good players, who they are, is finding a way. And that you learn to adapt. And, there's no substitute for competing and, playing hard. That kind of sounds cliche, but it's the truth. So, you learn that pretty fast. And honestly, I probably learned that right away just from watching guys and practicing against them. I remember my first training camp, guys were like nonstop. I was like, geez, well, I'm not as skilled as these guys, and they're competing harder. So I better bring my compete level up if I want to stick around here and, be an impactful player. So.
Jimmy Murphy.
Hey, Anders, how are you?
Doing well. How about you?
Good, man. Just, gonna get a look at a kind of a different team tomorrow with the Penguins, and a team that, if I had it right, is 5-1-1 since the last time they played you guys. What's your take when you're matching up against the Penguins? What are you looking to do? What are you looking out for, other than Sidney Crosby?
Yeah, I mean, they're a good team who's done well, obviously, but I think we're focused on building our game. I think we've played well. We've improved on some things, but I think everyone knows we're not at the point we want to be. We're not playing the type of hockey we exactly want to be playing, and wins and losses aren't the exact judge of that. But we want to win more games than we have this little over first half of the season. So, but I mean, mainly we're focusing on building our game and playing every night like the way we know we're capable of. And as our coaching staff says, if we do that, we'll win more games than we lose and win a lot more than we lose. I believe so. I think as much as we look and attend season things of other teams, the focus going forward is definitely on our team and building our game to be at the place that we know it can be at and where we want it to be.
Last question, Chris Ryan.
Hey, Anders, you just talked about it earlier, where goals are scored and how you simplify your game in order to have success. And Marshy was talking about that yesterday too. At times, we obviously see players shift in a different direction and try to score from the outside and try to do it in a skilled way.
Mm-hmm.
What's the mindset when things kind of change and where you go away from scoring at the net, realizing that 5 feet around the net's where goals are scored?
Yeah, speaking kind of personally, because that's what I have most experience with. I think when I'm successful in creating more opportunities is taking the puck to the net. So that's what I think is the most effective way, especially for a player who has some speed like I do, is driving the net hard, challenging guys, taking it to the net, and then letting your kind of skill take over your reaction or instinct take over from there. But it's getting inside and taking that puck to the net, and then seeing what happens from there. And usually it's just your feel or whatever quick play you make, quick shot you take there. So that's kind of my focus personally. I think that's the most effective way to start building more offense into my game, which is something I'm trying to do right now for sure. But then I think the outside shots and things kind of come into play later once you just have those habits solidified of taking the puck to the net and being a dangerous threat off the rush or out of the corner and things like that. So I think from my personal experience, that's what I'm kind of trying to do here to build more offense in my game.
Thanks, Bjorky.
Thank you.
Media, next up, we'll have Charlie McAvoy. If you have a question for Charles, please use that raise hand function and we'll get you in queue. As a reminder, if you no longer have a question, please lower your hand.
You can't really see the rings. But if you saw the bowling alley, I'm basically where I'm talking to you from. I'm standing right over the bowling alley up in the dressing room. So you just have to be on the back side of it, and then you'll see 3 overhead doors, the garage doors out back. Just hang tight in front of bay 3 if you can. And I'll be down in a second. Thank you.
Hey, Charlie, we're live here with the media. We will take our first question from Fluto Shinzawa.
Charlie, I have two questions for you. First about defense.
Sorry, guys. I didn't know I was walking into the live one. Go right ahead.
Yeah. A question about defense. When you were a kid, what was it that made you decide, okay, I want to be a defenseman. This is the position that I really enjoy.
Well, kind of probably familiar to a lot of guys' stories. Like I just got put there. Like everyone as a kid wants to be a forward, right? You want to score goals and do all that. But my dad was the coach, and naturally everybody wanted to play forward. So he kind of took the decision out of my hands and made me play D. But then I just kind of took a liking to it, got used to it and enjoyed it really. I ended up going back to forward one year when I was 12, 13. And then I went back to D at the end of the year. One of the defensemen on the team got hurt. So I was like, I'll go back, I'll play. And after that, I was like, I'm never going back to forward. I like it a lot better back here.
Okay. And then also being a right shot defenseman, in real life, are you also a righty when you do right with your right hand or left hand? Or
right with my right. I like baseball righty, golf righty, like all that stuff. So I'm dominant right, yeah. And how
did you do you remember how you settled on a right stick over a left stick in hockey?
We have these talks all the time because I can never wrap my head around guys who play lefty hockey, but then like swing a golf club righty or like play a baseball. Like it just seems so foreign to me. But I don't know. My dad's a righty. I know that. So maybe he just cut down a right-handed stick for me and kind of took the choice out of my hands. But I think of that a lot because a lot of the lefties are dominant righty, I guess righty top hand. But when you're that age, you're so young, I don't even really remember. I guess I just got used to it and it didn't feel too weird. So here we are now.
Thank you.
Jimmy Murphy.
Hey, Charlie, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good, man. You know, I've just talked to some people lately. They're just raving about your game, and a couple of them kept going back and drawing Drew Doughty comparisons, and it brought me back. I think it was a few years back. You were talking to us one day, just saying that's kind of a guy that you always liked and looked up to, and you might want to model your game after him. I'm just wondering, since that time that you're looking at other guys there, how much more have you just made your game, do you feel, and kind of created your own characteristics, so to speak?
Yeah. Definitely. Like when I was in college and coming in, he was the guy who I wanted to kind of resemble and pull a lot of things from, and kind of used him as like my want to get to point, I guess maybe ceiling. Like I want to be like him. And, since I've been in the league, you kind of understand, as you're growing and maturing and trying to round your game out, you realize what you're good at, what needs improvement, things like that. And then you kind of understand that, every player is unique. There's no, player everyone has little comparables, right? But everyone is not the same. So I think I've kind of established myself, for what I'm able to do well. And I try and just consistently do that night in and night out.
We'll do a last call for questions. And Jimmy Murphy, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, and I just wanted to say, I mean, I'm sure, you got to focus on your game right now this season, but I mean, does it feel good to hear your name mentioned for the Norse?
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I look around at all the defensemen in the league, and a lot of them before I was even here, looking up to those guys and wanting to pull things from their games and kind of idolizing, a lot of these guys who are the top defensemen in the league. So to be kind of, I guess, in a conversation with them is really unique, but deflect it all to team success. And I want to just be a part of a team that competes every night and wins. And we were able to win last game, but for us now, it's about trying to use that as a stepping stone to build some consistency here. And we got a chance to work towards that tomorrow.
Last question, Dan Roche.
Hey, Charlie, you just mentioned that word consistency. You've talked a lot about working in the past and learning and soaking in everything from Z. As you watch guys that you're playing with now, like the Lozans and the Zaboros, how hard is it to find that consistency on a game by game, practice by practice basis on the NHL level? I mean, we've seen guys star, you were at BU and everything else, but on the NHL level, how difficult is that to achieve?
It's obviously what you strive to do, right? And when you get called on, you want to have your best every night, and that consistency is something that early on I kind of learned, and from hearing through guys, like it's all about consistency, like how you become a good pro, how you last, how you establish yourself is consistency. Knowing what they're going to get from you on a night in, night out basis. So that's something that I've really tried to work towards, kind of having my own little cues on what gets me ready to go. So when the game starts, I can make sure that I'm kind of, I guess, Butch says it, if you don't have your A game, at least, have your B game, no C game or D games. So for me, it's like if I'm, maybe if I don't have my legs or I'm not feeling great, like I have to have that B game. Like I have to do enough of the right things to help our team. So I take that to heart and I try to do it. There's no such thing as perfection. Hockey is a game of mistakes. And I understand that, but you just got to roll with the punches and rebound, recover, and then try and strive for that consistency.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Media, that will conclude our availability today.